Hey, what's up, Hoosier fans? Welcome back to another edition of Under the Hood with Indiana football. Great to be back here with you as we get set for spring practice coming up in a couple of months. Can't wait for it. Excited to get our first look at this new Indiana University football team, led of course by Coach Curt Cignetti and a phenomenal staff that he has gotten a chance to put together here. And it's going to be our pleasure over the next few weeks to get to know a few of them. And we're going to begin with defensive coordinator and linebacker coach Bryant Haynes, who joins us on today's episode. A coach who is familiar with Bloomington, familiar with the Rock, back home again in Indiana, as we like to say. Coach Haynes, thanks for spending a few minutes here with us. And what's it like to be back in B-Town?
It feels great, man. I mentioned to you beforehand, I really like this place. My first in Harris, I was only here for a year. It was the 2012 with Kevin Wilson, and it was a solid staff. Coach Mike Eckler was one of the defensive coordinators. Coach Doug Mallory, unbelievable guy. I learned a lot from those guys. But the school, the pride in Indiana Hoosier football was awesome. I love being in the Big Ten. I enjoyed my time here, and I'm happy as hell to be back.
It's exciting, man. And look, you've played at the Rock. You've played very well at the Rock. We don't have to get into the results of that 2008 game from your Ball State Cardinals against our Hoosiers here, but let's just say glad you're on our side now, as you were back in 2012. What have you learned about IU and Bloomington now in the last couple of weeks? I know you guys have been, head down working your butts off here over the course of the last few weeks, but what have you learned about, in these last, 6 weeks or so that has you excited for what's to come here in Bloomington?
I think it's all the same things that were in place that I enjoyed from my previous stint, to be honest. I think it's a beautiful campus. I think you can recruit here. I think if you get the right players here and you show them what this place has, the facility, the stadium, the new end zone, this place is special. The locker room has been updated since I was last here.
Right.
But all the components that I thought made Bloomington so special the first time, those components are still here. They're still in play. And now all we've done is we've updated some of the stuff that needed to be updated. I think we have everything we need here from a resource perspective. Now it's time to take off.
Let's go. Let's go. And I know you're not wasting any time. That's for sure. So look, you've been with Coach Sig in some capacity at each of his head coaching stops, right? Is that a testament to how maybe your beliefs about this game that we all love align?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. He and I have always been in alignment about, keeping the main thing the main thing. And that's one thing I love about Coach Cignetti. He's a football guy. If you talk to Coach Cignetti as a fan, as a friend, as a coworker, it's all ball all the time, 100 miles an hour all the time. Singular focus. And I'm a little bit that way too. I'm obsessed with the game of football. I'm obsessed with scheme and all the things that go into winning football games. So he and I, we're pretty aligned in those sorts of things.
And then talking about your last stop together, of course, at James Madison, where you guys had just unparalleled success at that university and on that level, both at the FCS level and then making the jump to the FBS level these last couple of years. I look back at some of the games you guys played and remember some, watching some of those and looking back on some of the defenses you had and just looking at the numbers. Stop the run and create havoc up front, man. That's kind of what it's looked like to me. I mean, number one run defense in the nation, tops in TFLs per game in the nation. You've had two different guys, 2 different years have double-digit sack years for your defenses. How much does that kind of encapsulate what you want to get done from a philosophical standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. That's who we are, and that's what we're bringing to Bloomington. That's going to be the style of defense that we play. Obviously, we're going to have new wrinkles. Coach Cignetti and I hired an unbelievable staff, and guys are coming in with new ideas and new change-ups. So we're going to shake things up a little bit. But when you're talking about the floorboards of what is IU football, what is IU defense going to look like, that's what it's going to be. We're going to stop the run. We're going to win up front. We're going to create havoc. We're going to create explosives on defense. We're going to hit quarterbacks, and we're going to play a physical brand of football.
Go do it now. Want to go do it right now? I mean,
sign somebody. Yeah, let's go.
I'm fired up. Let's get this. Let's get this thing going. So when you look at personnel, obviously, Coach Cignetti and your staff and this whole group has made a concerted effort to bring guys into this program, right? That you believe can be impact players here. How would you kind of describe the process of identifying both guys, whether it was in the portal or whether it was in this recruiting class that you were familiar with, to kind of gel and mesh with some of the guys you're just kind of getting to know that were here already on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, that was a pretty good challenge. I think step one was definitely what do we have?
Yeah.
The guys that are coming back from IU, the guys that are not in the portal. What do we have? Who are the guys that make plays? Who do we need to keep? So once you identify that, then you can see where are the voids, what are the holes. Those are the ones that you have to patch up. So after that, you look to say, okay, well, who can we acquire? And it always starts for us with productivity. We're looking for guys that are on the field making plays. We don't care as much about that four-star kid at so-and-so school that has never stepped onto the field. That's not as meaningful to the kid that maybe is coming from a G5 program or what have you, but the kid makes plays. So we wanted to find playmakers, and we were able to bring in several guys that we feel do that at a high level.
What did stand out to you, anyone or anything, when you were looking at the guys already on the roster, as you try to kind of mold this vision for what this defense looks like next year?
I felt that there was a lot of pieces here. I thought that there was some talent here. I think it needs to be developed, and I think there's things that we can add from a schematic standpoint that can highlight these guys. But there's guys with strengths, some solid attributes that were already here. We can put in better situations, maybe and they can shine a little bit brighter. And there were some holes too, but I was pleasantly surprised with what was on IU's roster. I like the two down inside guys, the D tackles. Guys played physical. I think we have some edge rushers, good cover guys too. I think the second level can get cleaned up, and we have the makings of a solid unit that were already in play. It was about bringing in other guys that can make plays.
Getting Philip Bleedy back seemed to be a big one. Marcus Burris had some real bright spots this last year in his first year as a Hoosier, certainly. But you mentioned the second level. You lose a guy who's an all Big Ten performer in Aaron Casey, but stood next to a guy in Jacob Mangum Farrar, who's got another opportunity here. But that linebacker room needed, there was definitely some voids there, and it felt like that was a big piece of the process over the course of this winter and trying to kind of reshape that room and bring some more depth there. How would you describe that feeling with the group that you're going to be with on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I agree with you. We'll lose anytime you lose a first team all conference guy like number 44. I mean, that kid was special. He flashed on that tape as we watched it. Hard to replace a guy like that, but going out and getting two guys that I'm familiar with that do have productivity that I have worked with before, that was huge. And some of these other guys in this room are capable football players. They really are. So I'm excited about that room. But they're going to have to prove it. That's definitely, I think if you're looking at, okay, well, what's the group that really, how's this thing going to take shape? It's my room. It's the linebacker room. And we're going to get it cleaned up, and we'll get those guys playing fast.
Yeah, talking about that, in previous years, there was a lot put on that room. There's a lot put on. I feel like in most defenses, right? That second level, they're kind of like the CPU, of the defense a lot, and especially with a defensive coordinator that's going to be coaching that room on a day-to-day basis, almost like your mouthpiece on the field, right? Like your brain out there on the field. Is that how you approach it with them? That they've got to be, the guys that can kind of amplify your message to that group?
100%. Yeah. And I tell the guys that, I told them in my very first meeting with them that's what it is. They are a representation of me. I'm a representation of them, but this is a collaborative effort. They need to be me on the field. They have to see the game the way I see it, and they need to term things the way that I term things. We have to be cohesive with our messaging. And I've always been able to get that from my group. We'll get it with these guys too. There's no question, but that'll be a huge step. Be a huge step for us. And in terms of the stress of the defense, like definitely my room. I want there to be hard job descriptions on my guys, but we have to shift that. It can't always be, the linebackers are so stressed in this certain coverage, and then the safeties here. Nobody's helping the safeties. Like you have to move those pieces around, so it's hard to find who's the player in stress on a certain scheme.
Sure. Love that. Love hearing that and kind of what goes through your mind and trying to formulate how you want to attack offenses and how you want to disguise things for them. I know that's kind of what this time of year is also about for you guys, right? And now that the personnel thing is maybe settling down a little bit, I know it's a year-round process, But is that what you guys are doing day in and day out right now as you try to get, all these coaches, on the same page to, have one clear vision as you get set for spring ball here in a few weeks?
Yeah, it's different than a normal winter. Over the last 5 winters, we've had the same staff, so it's really about like what did we do and how can we make what we did better. This is kind of more of starting a little bit more from scratch because there are so many other coaches that are bringing in their scheme. So, this is we're doing some self-scout at JMU and the
Yeah.
defense that we had there, but we're also bringing these new components and we're adding those systems in. So it's been a fun winter. But the defensive staff and I we're gelling, we're meshing, we're putting
Yeah.
terminology together, we're putting techniques together, and that's been the goal here.
Yeah, and look, and I know you don't want to, give anything away, obviously this early as you're still trying to formulate it. But in years past, that slot corner position was kind of a specialty position, here at IU. It's same with the one of the edge rush positions opposite the true, strong side defensive end was a bull guy that was kind of rushing. Are there nuances to the way in which from maybe a schematic process in terms of certain positions? That you guys have that you want to have as part of your foundational principles for this defense?
Definitely,
Yeah.
yes. And you mentioned two of the big ones right there. Stud, what we call stud, I know was called bull
Yeah.
before, but yeah, that stud position is a very nuanced position and it takes a certain skill set. And I think the rover position, predominantly, at least in my two defenses at JMU, that is a unique position. It takes a pretty special athlete that does a number of different job descriptions, from being in the run fit to, possibly playing man coverage. Like, this guy's asked to do so many different things. So you need a versatile player there. Um, Even the will linebacker, we
Yeah.
have two inside linebackers, the Mike and the Will, and some of the things that I asked that Will to do puts him in stress, it puts him in conflict. So there's nuance to those roles, and we'll build those job descriptions out as we go.
Yeah, and that rover position, I assume, is the one that kind of sits in the slot. Oftentimes, is that how have you seen that position in football in general kind of evolve over the last 5 to 7 years as we've seen spread offenses really take flight?
Yeah, I think it's the premier position in the NFL, to be honest, and in college as well. I
Yeah.
mean, typically slot receivers right now for offenses are their
Sure.
weapons. You look at the Tyreek Hill guy, and you look at
Yeah.
all these 4-3 slot receivers that can get vertical on you, they can get wiggly on you with choice routes and things. You need a premier rover nickelback type of guy, and that's not easy to find. Those guys are hard to find, but that position is of high value at even at the NFL level, no question.
So when you have your first unit meeting, coach, and we'll get you out of here on this. When you have your first unit meeting, let's say it's in the days leading up to spring ball, and you outline, guys, this is what we are going to be all about. What does that kind of look like for your group and your guys on defense?
Yeah, it's always going to start with fast, physical, relentless. You'll hear that from the top of the program down. So I would echo Coach Nate first. We are going to be fast. We're going to be physical, and we're going to be relentless. We're going to be very accountable to one another. We're going to be committed to doing our job, completing our job description, and then we're going to enjoy competition. I think that's a big message that I want to put out there to my guys, is that competition is a beautiful thing. It's when you're not in competition with anybody that there's no growth. So being uncomfortable is okay. It's okay if you're looking over your shoulder like, man, that guy might come from my job. Good. I want you to feel that way. There's going to be competition. Push yourself to be a better football player, or somebody will pass you up.
That's awesome. Well, Coach, this has been a blast to get to know you here a little bit. Look forward to catching up down the road as well in person. And man, look, I know you got here in winter in Bloomington, but spring will come, and you'll learn it and you'll enjoy it. But excited for it, man. Excited for you guys, and can't wait to see you guys get on the field. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, man.